Hello, everyone. My name is Ole Kagan, and I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator with LA County Library, and I welcome you to Intro to Microsoft Office and Google Docs. Now let's move on to the program. And my name is Ole Kagan. I will be your presenter for today. I'm a big user of Microsoft Office at work and Google Docs at home, and these are things I'm somewhat enthusiastic about. I use them a whole lot and I like the various features they have, and I'll be covering some of those today. Now, we're not going to be getting extremely deep into any one program. I'll essentially just show you what they look like. And if we have time in the end, I can show you how to do some things in Microsoft Office or Google Docs, but that'll have to happen during the Q&A, since the amount of time we have to spend on everything is about 30 to 45 minutes, and then more time for questions. So we had a question in the Q&A. This person's interested in Google Docs only, about when will this part of the presentation start? That's a good question. And unfortunately, my answer may not be totally satisfactory, because Google Docs will be talked about throughout the presentation. We're going to be talking about comparing Word and Docs. And so there isn't going to be one very long part of the presentation that's just Google Docs. So I'm going to bring up my PowerPoint, and we should get underway. There it is. So this is an example of a program within Microsoft Word or Microsoft Office, and we'll be talking about presentation software soon. All right, so intro to Microsoft Office and Google Docs. You may be familiar with Microsoft Office and Google Docs. You may have heard of these Office suites. And today you'll be getting I would say, a beginner's eye view of what they consist of, a little bit about how to use them, and what you can expect if you take slightly more advanced classes. I should say where it is now for a beginner, and then where you can go with Microsoft Office and Google Docs. So, description for today's program: Microsoft and Google both offer users programs to assist in typing up documents, creating spreadsheets, and putting together slideshows like this one. The suites are different in some ways, and there are pros and cons to each. So by the end of this presentation, I'm hoping that you have an understanding of what Microsoft Office contains, at least the most popular pieces of it, what they look like, and what steps you need to take to develop your skills further. I should say also which one you want to get into first, Microsoft Office or Google Docs. That's a real question these days, more so than it was 10 years ago. So why do people use an Office suite? The answer is because it contains much of what you need to do most Office tasks and even personal organizational tasks. If you need to write a letter, you use a word processor. If you need to calculate your personal finance or budgets at work, you're going to use spreadsheets, Microsoft Excel or Sheets. And if you want to create presentations, whether that's at a Toastmasters meeting or Rotary Club, or even at a wedding or at work, to talk about the quarterly numbers, you might use Microsoft PowerPoint to do that. So similar examples: if you want to do a home budget, Microsoft Excel, Google Sheets. If you want to create a slideshow on digital literacy, like this one, Microsoft PowerPoint, which is what I'm using now, or Google Slides. The other benefit of using an Office suite, so a suite of programs from one company, is that there's interoperability. It's a big word, and what it means is that you can collaborate between the different programs. So you can paste the spreadsheet. You can copy a spreadsheet from Excel and paste it into Microsoft Word, and it works not quite effortlessly, but mostly effortlessly. And it's the same with the Google suite of programs. You can copy stuff from Google Sheets, like a chart, and put it into Google Slides, and it works very easily. And you could easily toggle between the different programs depending on what you're trying to do. So there's some amount of synergy between the programs that is different from just using a standalone word processor, which may not have that and may not export in a way that most people will use. The other benefit of these two specific pieces of software is that, well, most people use them. So most people are either using Microsoft Office in the office or Google Docs. And that's Google Docs has grown. That's called Google Workspace or Google Drive. It has grown in use over the last 10 years and also in feature richness. And so the majority of things that people had done in Microsoft Office in the office can now be done using Google Docs. So moving forward, our objectives for this program, as I have mentioned, learn the difference between Google and Microsoft Office suites, determine which program works best for the desired task, or which program works best for you and your goals, and then identify the most used features of each system, which is to say what it looks like, what you can expect if you go to the library or get onto your computer and open up Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, or the Google Workspace programs. So moving right into a direct comparison between Microsoft Office and Google Docs, what we have here is that the different pieces of software have certain categories. So we both have word processors, Microsoft Word and Google Docs, and those are used to create documents that are more text heavy. So if all you're doing is taking meeting notes, for example, you could use a simple text editor like Microsoft Notepad or something where you don't have a whole bunch of features. You don't need to even have bold or power or you don't need to have mail merge or any complex features. You can just have the text. Whereas if you're trying to create a tutorial for something, or you need to write a letter that has to have certain format, or you want to insert an image, you're going to be using Word or Docs for that. If you're trying to create spreadsheets, if you need to display charts or report on something that's best displayed visually, you're going to be using Excel and Sheets to create that spreadsheet and then build a chart from it. There's numerous charts that you can create, some of them very creative and interesting looking, and also useful in terms of information design. And then if you're trying to create a presentation, whether it's a sales presentation, or I mentioned earlier, I'm not sure if anybody would actually do this, but to create a presentation for a wedding, why I'm happy that Bob and Melissa are getting married. 3 reasons. Let me start my slideshow. It's a possibility. And if the presentation is good, then it's a great best man speech. So they have, as I've mentioned, the same basic functionality. These 3 different programs, Word and Docs, Excel and Sheets, and PowerPoint and Slides, I should say category of program, have essentially very similar basic functionality. Once you get beyond the basics, then they diverge. And once you get beyond the basics, they also diverge in the kind of computer language that's used, or sort of the user interface, the way that each of these programs approaches the different features that they have. But at the very core, if all you're doing is creating a basic presentation or typing a simple cover letter, for example, or just using basic personal finance spreadsheets that don't stretch between different sheets and have a million formulas, then it doesn't matter. Either of them are good. But considering that the price of Microsoft Office is considerable potentially, and now it's a subscription model, so you're paying something every year for Microsoft Office. Of course, they'll update it for you, but you're paying something every year for it, and Google Docs is free with a Google account. That may make a difference depending on your use case. However, if you're using it for work, most workplaces that have Microsoft Office are paying for it, so that doesn't so much matter for personal use or for work use. The collaboration, Google Docs was created with the idea of collaboration. That was something that was built into it from the very beginning, where 2 people can be on a spreadsheet or word processing file and working on it at the same time. And so with Google Docs, collaboration is straightforward. It's easy to share documents. Those options are not complicated and always work. There's versioning control in both, so you can see the changes that are made both in Microsoft Office and Google Docs. But because Microsoft Office has been around for decades and decades and only started doing collaboration as a feature maybe a decade ago and has really come into its own now, it's a bit less intuitive, and I would say that it doesn't necessarily work as well because of the different ways that people use Microsoft Office and the different versions of the software. And so slightly less intuitive, even though it's very possible. And I, for one, use Microsoft Office as a collaboration tool pretty much every day at work. So though less intuitive, no less feature rich. Google Docs is completely online, that you can have an offline version of it, but you don't download it to your computer, you just use it within your browser. So it's totally browser based. On the other hand, Microsoft Office has embedded Microsoft Office, which is if you're using Microsoft Teams, for example, which is a collaboration platform, a communication platform, you can view Microsoft Office files within Microsoft Teams. You can view Microsoft Office files using Microsoft Office or Microsoft Word, for instance, that's installed on your computer. And you can also look at it just like you would with Google Docs, right in your browser. Now, there's some difference in features, there's slight differences in the way they look and the way they work, but Microsoft Office is essentially platform ambiguous, I would say platform ubiquitous. So whether you're on a computer, in a browser, or in another program like Microsoft Teams, you can use Microsoft Office. For some people, that's an added complication. And if you're feeling that way, then Google Docs might be better for you. Now, Google Docs is not as old as Microsoft Office, and they've kept things more simple than Microsoft Office, which has added features in order to increase their offerings. Because you have a program and you put big new releases, you have to add something so that more people will buy it. So Microsoft Office has been adding features for the last 40 years. And so their feature set is powerful. It's amazing. The things you can do with Excel, they're stupendous. I really like it. But most people don't use the majority of the features that Microsoft Office offers. In that case, Google Docs is a better program because, generally speaking, the features are simple, limited, but if you want those more advanced features, they have a lot of the most popular ones. They're just buried a little bit under the hood, so they might be in a menu that you don't have access to unless you look for it. But if you never look for it, it doesn't matter. It's still simple. So let's move forward to talking about word processors, presentation software, and spreadsheet software. So, skipping ahead. Word processors like Google Docs and Microsoft Word do the basic task of letting you write on a computer. You can cut text to remove from a place. You can copy text, which is you just grab it, but it still stays there, and you can paste it. You can format your documents for printing. You can insert different, you can replace and insert, find and replace. So you find the iteration of some kind of text in a document and you can replace it with something else. It has word wrap, so it's not, the text doesn't just keep going infinitely to a horizontal scroll. It'll end at the page. So it's not like a typewriter where you have to manually, change it. It'll do that by itself. Go back to the beginning. You can delete whole sections of text. You can rearrange. I did a project during my graduate days on the history of word processors, and the amazing feature of them versus typewriters was that you can edit them right there. You don't have to type up a whole new sheet. You can just switch your text around at the point of their creation. That was pretty amazing. And I still think it's very useful as a writer and a librarian that you can do all sorts of things with your text using a word processor. Spreadsheets, in case you don't know, most people know what a spreadsheet is, but it is rows and columns where you put numbers, letters, dates, and you have structured information. And I'll show you what the interface for that looks like. So you display various data in cells. You can perform calculations on those cells and various manipulations, even with text within those cells using functions and formulas. You can easily pull in that information and create charts and graphs of various sorts and design your charts and graphs to look beautiful and interesting. And of course, you can sort the data. So if you input, a 500 row spreadsheet, you can very, very easily sort it by, biggest to smallest, A to Z. So if you have data that's kind of messy, you can use both Google Sheets and Microsoft Excel to clean that up and make it useful for you. Next, we're talking about presentation design software, Google Slides and Microsoft PowerPoint. You can create slideshows like I'm showing you right now. You can also include the graphs charts that you create with the spreadsheet software. You can plop that stuff right in, make it match your presentation. You can use images. It's very much the visual representation of presentation. And these days, when you see presentations, some people rely a whole lot on presentation software beyond just being a visual aid. And I've had people tell me when we've done presentations in the past that did not include a slideshow, they're like, oh, I feel relieved. I just get to see people talking. I don't have to look at a slide. But if you do need visual aids for your presentation, if that's helpful to have people read along, and if people who learn better by reading, they get to follow along using a presentation software. And the nice thing about presentation software for speakers is that we also get our own notes. So just like you can have your notes on a podium in a presentation, in Microsoft Office, at least in PowerPoint, we get a special presenter view where I get to see the next slide, I get to see my notes, I get to do stuff like draw. I get to use like a laser pointer to show this guy giving a presentation. I get to draw on the presentation. Presentation design, speaker notes, very important. And then very easily erase that, just parts of it. If I want to leave presentation design, I'm going to do that. Erase all this stuff, and then erase everything on the slide. So you get, because it's a computer, you can benefit from being able to edit as you go. So those are the three categories of software we're going to be talking about. And now let's get into what those look like within Google Docs and Microsoft Office. But before I do that, let me get into some questions because we have a few, and I feel like I can answer some of those right now because when we move on, the question may recede further in a mind. So let's get some of those right now. And we're not going to take too long on the questions at the moment, and we'll move into specifically Google Docs and Microsoft Office. So question about, can you talk about dictation? That isn't part of this presentation, but I will say the dictation is an option that's available. I know it's available within the Microsoft Office suite, and I believe it's also available within Google Docs, although it depends on your browser, I think. So in many computers these days, especially laptops, come with a microphone built in, so you could use dictation. So if we have time, maybe I'll take a look at that. I haven't done it in a while, but if we have time later, I can always open up Microsoft Word and try dictation on for size, see if we'd actually get it going right at this moment. So can you directly convert a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet into Google Sheets? Yes, absolutely. And that's a very convenient feature if you have Microsoft Office at work and Google Docs at home. The way that you do that is you simply export the file, you save the file as an Excel file. Even XLX files, and then you just upload them, which is you bring them from your computer to your Google Drive, and you should just be able to open them. Now, some of the very, very complex formulas in Excel may not perfectly transition over to Google Sheets, but for the most part, you should be getting a very good representation of your Microsoft Office spreadsheet. Google Docs shows different versions of a doc. How do I know I'm looking at the most recent version? Great question. The versioning is something that was very important because so many people are collaborating on a document. You want to make sure that you're looking at the most recent one. Well, when you open the document, it defaults to being the most recent version. So you have to do something different. So you have to go to File and then go to Version History in order to see the previous versions. So if you're just opening it, it'll be the most recent version. Everyone I know uses Microsoft Office. If I do something in Google Docs and send as an attachment, would it be able to open in Office? Yes, it will. So what you can do if you need to send it as an attachment in an email is export it or save it either as a PDF or as a Word document, and then you can freely send it out to all of those folks using Microsoft Office, and they'll be able to open it with no problem. Can I make a Word page and store it as a PDF? You can. So it's very easy to export. And what export means is you take something from a program and you bring it out of that program. So you can export your Word documents as PDFs, and it's also within the file menu, and then there's an export button, and the PDF is right there. It's just you click on a button, it'll let you save it, and there it goes. It even will downgrade the size of the file for if you want. If you're trying to publish it to the web, it'll make it a little bit smaller for you in the sense that the file won't take up as much space. I do it all the time. I export all of these presentations that I'm sharing with you as a PDF after, so that any of you can easily open it, because most modern computers are able to open PDF files by default. Are there certificates for learning Microsoft Word? So I don't think that there's a certificate like a network administrator certificate for Microsoft Word, but you can get certificates for taking classes on Microsoft Word. So I don't think there's a credentialing organization for like being a Word master. But yeah, you can show that you've learned it by getting a certificate from LinkedIn Learning, for example. All right, one more question here, and then we'll move on with our presentation. Is Google Docs Personal the same as the business version, or does the business docs have features for business that personal version does not have? That's a good question. I don't know a great answer for that. If you email me after the program, I can always look it up and find out. I think at its base, they're very similar. I think there might be some features that allow for a back-end administration in the business version, if you're using Microsoft Workspace. But as a whole, at the user level, I think they're mostly the same. But yeah, email me and I'll be able to do some research on that for you. All right, let's move forward in our presentation. And we're going to be talking about some of the Google Docs. So here's Google Docs, and we'll dive right into what it looks like. Now, I know that this is really, really small, and I apologize for that. When you get this presentation as a PDF, you'll be able to zoom in and look. But really, the idea here is that you just get the general sense of what that Google Docs page looks like when you open it. So this is a word processor. What you see here is, in the middle is where you type. If you click here, it'll automatically give you a document outline, which is a convenient feature if you have many headings and you have a 25-page document and various headings and subheadings. If you click document outline, you can easily navigate to whichever one you'd like. There's a toolbar right here, and you'll find that no matter what kind of productivity software you use, toolbars are commonplace. What they have on them is also, to a certain extent, standard, at least in this part here. And I'm going to show you the toolbar closer up in a moment. And then what Google Docs has that's really interesting, in fact, all the Google Suite programs have that's really interesting, is the Explore button. That's this down here. It's got a little star on it. And what Explore is you get to ask questions to Google Docs. It's almost like a AI machine learning powered search engine. I use it particularly with Google Sheets. So if I want to ask a question about a bunch of data that I have, a table of data that I have, I can ask it, for instance, what is the sum of all of the groceries that I spent this month, between this date and this date, and it'll just give me an answer. So I don't have to like look for it or create an filter view. I can just ask using natural language and it'll give me the answer, because Google has been thinking about how to make finding data from large spreadsheets easier for people, and they've done a pretty decent job at it. I've been impressed with that Explore feature. So here is a little slightly closer look at the toolbar. We've got undo, redo buttons here. So if you make a mistake, you can easily click undo and you can go pretty far back with the undo. You can erase what you've created. You can redo if you go, oh, I just undid something. Whoops, I actually meant to do that. You can just click redo. It'll start again. You can adjust your fonts, the font name, so the font type, the font, or I should say the typeface. You can adjust the size, make it bold, italics, and underlined. You can adjust the alignment, insert links and images. Here you can create numbered lists or unordered lists. You can, and this little T button here with the little whoosh, that will let you remove the formatting from the document. I kind of use that feature a lot because sometimes you copy stuff into a document and it's all messed up and you just want to start from scratch. So you select it all, you click that button and it removes all the weird formatting. I mentioned sharing before, and it's even got the share button prominently displayed right here. If you want to share this document and collaborate on it with other people, that's available right in this area. So that's Google Docs. Let's move on to Google Sheets. So this is what a piece of spreadsheet software looks like. It's a little bit faint, but in this area here, you see all these little squares or little rectangles. These are the cells. You can put numbers or text in here. You can have multiple sheets. So you're right now in just one sheet. You can create various sheets. So if you have different kinds of data that you want to then transition to other places, you can or just have one in one workbook, but you have different sheets. You can keep them all in one place by having different sheets. There's the Explore feature that I was mentioning earlier. Very interesting and fun to try. If you want to import, which take from outside, put it into the program, a spreadsheet into Google Sheets, I recommend giving that Explore feature a try. It's a lot of fun. It's fun for nerds like me, but it's interesting at the very least. Here's our toolbar, which we should expect. The share button. You can change the name of a document easily by clicking here. And then here is where you get all the more complex features. View, insert, format, data, and tools are menus that will drop down and give you a variety of different options. And if you're interested in learning more about Google Sheets, I did an in-depth tour of Google Sheets last week. So if you go to our YouTube channel, LA County at lacountylibrary.org, or for YouTube, youtube.com/LA County Library, you don't have to scroll a whole lot to find my in-depth tour of Google Sheets, where I spent over an hour just poking into every aspect of Google Sheets. And I can also include that in the follow-up email in case you're very interested in learning more about Google Sheets. So here's the toolbar of Google Sheets. This part is very similar, as you'll find that this is familiar. This is the font size, bold, italics, strike through, the different color for the text, for the cell, borders. And then some features are specific to Microsoft, or I should say Google Sheets, and you'll find these features also in Microsoft Excel. So the format, so you have different cells, you can make them into the format of currency, a date, you can move decimal points very easily. This is something that people do in spreadsheets a lot, so these features are right here prominently displayed in the toolbar. And then right here, we're talking about inserting charts, and there's an insert chart button. You click that button and Google Sheets will actually automatically detect where the data is. You can adjust it, of course, but it'll detect where the data is and even give you a suggestion for the type of chart that you can show to have the best graphic representation of the information in your table. Your computers will do a lot for you these days. But still, you want to know what charts are best for what so that you can make sure that it's giving you a great suggestion and not just a so-so suggestion. There's a filter and sort button. So if you only want if you have a personal ledger for your budget, if you only want to know where you spent money on Wednesdays, you can filter and sort just to Wednesday dates or just for groceries. You click that button and it'll let you have a variety of options for sorting. And then there's the function button here. So functions are essentially manipulations of the items in your cell. You can add things, subtract things, you can change the way that your data looks. There are hundreds of functions, and they're really what differentiate, writing this by hand and what the computer will do for you. These functions, are a game changer when it comes to spreadsheet software, and both Google Sheets and Microsoft Excel have so many of them. But what I find in my own personal use of Sheets and Excel is that really most people use, if you're going to use the software a lot, you'll use like 10 of them, and probably no more. But to know what's out there, it's amazing. Let's move into Google Slides. So this is presentation software. So it all starts with a blank screen like this. You can click to add title, click to add subtitle, or you can just delete these text boxes and do your own thing. So we have our toolbar over at the top here, the file menus that have various options, and our usual toolbar. Once we click on text here, our expected toolbar opens up with the font size, font shape, different applications or different kind of artistic features you can do with the fonts, especially important in aesthetically oriented software like presentation software. So you have various options here, and we'll go into this toolbar a little bit more in the next slide. But for now, we have the outline view, so you can see all of your different slides here. So right now there's only one slide in this presentation, so that's why we only have this one, but you'll be able to see all of them. So if you have 30 slides in your presentation, I think the one I have here has like 18. I would be able to go through them pretty easily. Here are the speaker notes. So if you're sharing a present, working on it with somebody else, you can put information in the speaker notes for you and your colleague. You can, if you're not a designer, I'm not a designer for sure, suggested themes are a good place to start with your presentation design, because these are themes that were created by professional designers, presumably. They're not all beautiful, but they're all useful to see what you can do with presentation software. And then of course we have the Explore button here. I've never used the Explore button in Google Slides, but I'm curious what it does. So maybe after I finish with this presentation, I'm going to go and look and see what the Explore button does in Google Slides. All right, and here is the toolbar. And so you can see some similar things: redo, print, undo, redo, print. You can plus minus, so you can zoom in, zoom out. And then there's some more like background, layout, theme, transitions. A transition is some graphical things you can do between slides. I don't recommend getting too deeply into those unless you're a slideshow expert, because they're very distracting if you have a lot of them. And as a non-aesthete, I just avoid them. I just don't use them, because I'm going to just create a presentation that looks too busy and kind of weird. So you have a lot of options when it comes to appearance for your presentations. And then here's the present button, and you click that and your presentation appears full screen, and there you are, off to the races. And of course, the typical share button that all the Google documents have. Okay, now we're going to move into Microsoft Office, but before I do that, can you post in the chat if you are with me? Just want to know if everyone's able to keep up. Am I talking too fast? Am I talking too slow? Is this too simple for you? Let me know how we're doing in the chat. And I can always, of course, adjust the presentation. And if it's, if you want specific features, I can always remove the presentation and just go live and show you. Maybe we'll do that in the Q&A, because it's a whole lot of fun to chat with you all and to show you features live. All right, thank you very much, everybody, for your feedback. Very much appreciated. Looks like most of them say that I'm going at just the right speed, although there are a few people who have mentioned that I'm going a little bit fast, and that's understandable. I do have a lot of information to cover, and if you've never used the productivity software like this before, it can be difficult to see something and go, oh, now I understand. So what I'm going to do is slow down a little bit. That way we can all be with us in the same place. So let's move on to our word processing software with Microsoft. And that, of course, is Microsoft Word. I've been using Microsoft Word for probably, let me see, it's 2023. Yeah, for more than 20 years. And I believe Microsoft Word was first released in the 80s, or the 1980s. So we're talking software that's existed for a really long time, and it's looked different. About every 10 years, there's a major redesign of it. And so what you're going to see now is pretty much what the current one looks like. And I would say that probably in the next 5 years, it might change a lot. We'll see. Either way, the main features that you're going to be using, the ones I'm going to be showing you right now, those are unlikely to change. Okay, so you'll notice in seeing this window, this Microsoft Word window, that it actually looks very similar in its essentials to Google Docs. So you can see, if I bring my pointer back, you can see this middle area. This is where you type. You can adjust what things look like here. So if you don't want this gray part, if you don't want to see the page right in your face without any gray part, you can do that. You can zoom in, zoom out. You can remove space between pages. So the way that Microsoft Word is by default is it uses the model of paper where you just use where you're like using a typewriter. You have one page and then there's a space between the page. So you can see how it would if it was printed. But Google Docs has this feature as well. And you can just make it one infinite page in Microsoft Word. So, which is probably more akin to what's expected on a computer, because if you're not going to print it, you're really just looking at one infinite page anyway. So what we have up here is a toolbar, and in the Microsoft parlance, this is called a ribbon. And you can minimize this ribbon, you can make it smaller, you can make the ribbon bigger, or I don't know if you can make it a lot bigger, but you can change the things that you have on here, so it's very customizable. But by default, it has the things that most people need. And so if we look in this area here, and actually let me do this because this is going to be easier. Here's what the ribbon looks like. It's just a little bit zoomed in. I know it's still very, very small on your screens, but you can see that there's features that are the same in Google Docs, just in a slightly different place. So up here we have the undo and redo. And again, what that does is that if you typed in something or made some kind of formatting change that you actually realize, I don't want that, then you can click undo and it'll just remove it. It'll just go back to the way it was before. And then if you think, wait a second, no, or if some other colleague comes and says, no, you want that to be that way, then you click redo and like magic, it reappears. You have the different font formats here. So you got bold, underline, italics, the font type. You can have a font size. You can change the colors of the background of the line or the text itself. You can make the text aligned all the way to the left, all the way to the right, and vertically and horizontally, and you can make it justified. Justified means it's just like in a book where the line takes up the whole page and you don't have like a jagged side. So it'll automatically spread out the text. So it fits the entire part of the page from margin to margin. What we all have here in the middle, and this is, to be honest, something I never use, but it's something that's here and prominent, and this is styles. So if you want to have your document have a certain kind of aesthetic, there are many, many options. So if you want the fonts to be different, Microsoft Office has a lot of built-in ones. So you don't have to make up new ones. And if you click on this little button here, there's a little down button, you can scroll down. There's a whole bunch of them. I mentioned find and filter and replace previously, and that functionality is available right here. And we're talking about dictation here on the very first screen of Microsoft Word. When you open it, there's a dictate button with a little microphone. Very convenient for the person that was interested in dictation. We have a little share button here. We have comments in case you're going to be collaborating. And of course, if there's these menus here, but instead of dropping down as they would in Google Docs, when you click on these design, layout, references, mailing, review, view, and help, it'll open up a new ribbon. And so you'll see you got a visual representation of all the options that are available. Moving on to Microsoft Excel. Again, very similar to what we saw in Word, except for once we get into this ribbon, we get a whole lot more. It's like opening up a new world. Did you know that you can actually, if you have a list of addresses in Microsoft Excel, it will automatically make a heat map for you. And by heat map, I mean, it will create a map for you of an actual, where those addresses actually are. and it will have it be redder where there's more of the addresses clustered together, and different colors where they're less clustered together. Amazing. I never knew that. And then when I was trying to analyze some data, I had a bunch of zip codes, and I wanted to know where a bunch of people had signed up for a certain type of program that we had at the library. And I used that as, oh, okay, we have a lot of customers or library patrons here. It was very interesting. You can create your data and then view it in different ways. Then it has many, many other types of visual representation. But I was really surprised at the heat map feature, because I did not know that was something that Microsoft Excel could do. And maybe 10 years ago it couldn't, but now it can. So here we have our toolbar, and here we have also sheets. So you can have multiple sheets in a workbook. And we have page layout, formulas, data, review, view, and help. Again, so many options for your ribbon. And what we have here is the formula bar. So we're talking about functions and formulas. You have a visual representation of what it looks like here. You can actually put your formulas in here. So you click on a cell, any cell that you can find. This right here, I'm going to look really closely. This is F5 right here. And you double click that, you put a little equal sign, and then you can type the formula that you want in that cell here. So if you want to add up, numbers that would be here and here, you can easily do that by going to F5, double clicking it, pushing the little equal sign on your keyboard, and then typing sum. It doesn't matter if it's in big letters or small letters. You type in SUM, and in parentheses, you can even just click on this cell and this cell, and it'll input the coordinates of that cell. You close the parentheses in the formula bar here, press enter, and it'll add those numbers for you. As if you have like a personal assistant doing your arithmetic for you. Wouldn't we have all liked to have that when we were in school? So let's see what the ribbon looks like in Microsoft Excel. And this is it. So again, just like in Word, you have styles here. So you can make your Excel spreadsheet beautiful. Most people don't associate aesthetics with spreadsheets because, after all, it's just a bunch of cells. But indeed, you can make different colors, fonts, and so you can make beautiful, beautiful dashboards to represent a whole bunch of just table data in Microsoft Excel. And if you search Google for Microsoft Excel dashboards, or like best Excel dashboards, you'll see the amazing things people create with Microsoft Excel. I'm not saying that we, basic, simple people, like me, even me, I'm talking about myself here too. Like we can start doing those things immediately, but we all have the capability. We can learn how to do the things that they do and also create beautiful dashboards for ourselves and our work and our friends. And now I'm getting a little carried away because not everybody gets as excited about what you can do with Microsoft Excel as I do. Back to our ribbon. So right here we have the cut, copy, paste. We have the font options here, the same font options that were in the previous iterations of different pieces of software. We've got also the different alignments, vertical and horizontal. Here is what we saw earlier in Google Sheets. We've got the currency, percentage. We can change where the comma is, whether we have a comma in numbers, after the first three numbers. And then we can adjust, where the decimal point is. And we can also, it says general over here, but if we click that, it'll give us a drop down. It'll give many, many options for the type of data we have in the cells. And so Excel will treat that data differently, which is great for us because we can do different things with that data. Here's the formula button. So this is like, you can click down, this is auto sum. So if you select a whole bunch of what is called as a range, a whole bunch of cells, if you select a range of cells, then you can press auto sum and it'll add it up for you. And here's the sort and filter, but also very useful. Find and replace here. And then here, and this is great that we've included this in the presentation, here is the insert chart. So there's an insert chart button. So here's the condition of format table. And then if we go to insert right over here, and there's an insert chart button. And here is the various options. So you can ask for recommended charts, or you can go and drop down into each of these. So you've got like bar charts, we can, sprite lines, also pie charts, and various other potential charts, and maps, which I was talking about heat maps earlier. Here is the maps feature. And this is a pivot chart, which is getting a little bit more advanced for us. And if you want to learn more about pivot tables in Google Sheets, I cover that in my in-depth tour from last week. That's on YouTube. If you're interested, if you're a beginner, though, I would say I would stick with the beginner features first, fiddle around with Excel or Sheets first, and then move into pivot tables, and they will amaze you. All right, let's get into Microsoft PowerPoint, and we're getting towards the end of our presentation, after which we'll be able to get into our Q&A, which is, as always, my favorite part of the presentation, because then I can have a conversation with all of you. So Microsoft PowerPoint also looks very similar to Google Slides. Sorry, now I'm getting everything mixed up. Google Slides, except for, of course, this very complex and fully featured ribbon. So we've got the outline right here. We've got the toolbar here, which will go into the next slide. We've got where your presentation is, suggested themes, and speaker notes. And of course, down here, just like in Microsoft Word, you can adjust how much you're zoomed in, zoomed out, just how your slides look, or how you see the slides. So for instance, if you're sharing your screen and showing your slides, you're working on a presentation with a colleague, sometimes I recommend zooming in so that they can see your presentation better, especially if there's a lot of little things on there. And here is the ribbon. We get a lot of, so I keep saying we get a lot of the same things, and it really is. It's deliberately a pattern of options that are similar. So each of these suites, overall in productivity software, we've got a lot of similar features, especially the features that most people use. And then within Microsoft PowerPoint and all the Microsoft software, you've got that ribbon. So you can depend on that ribbon, and certain features will be in similar places across the different pieces, the different applications. And it's the same in Google Workspace or Google Drive, where you get kind of a similar layout. So moving from one to the other is not so challenging. So here, of course, we have the appearance, trend design, transitions, animations. So things that happen when the slides move from one slide to the other, and also within the slide. So you can have, for instance, one slide, like have text appear, have text disappear, have text fly off the screen, and those would be animations. And then transitions would be moving from one slide to the other, so you can have like the slide fizzle out into the next slide, or like the slide just slide off the screen. If you do it right, it can be fun and effective, but if you do it too much, it's very distracting, and people will be focused on your transitions and not what you're saying as part of your presentation. And of course, you go to view and you'll be able to launch the slideshow. Here's the share button, comments, similar to Word, and here's also a dictate. So you can even dictate in Microsoft PowerPoint. All right, and now we're towards the end of the presentation here, and I want to let you know that if you have questions about what we've covered in this presentation, if you want to learn more about Microsoft Office and Google Docs, if you have just a single question about any kind of research that you need to do, whether we have certain books at the library, you can always contact the library by either calling your local library, and you can find that information at lacountylibrary.org. Right in the top, there's locations. You can click those locations and find where your closest library is. You can text the library if you're into texting on your smartphone. You can text 626-394-4019 Monday through Friday, 12 to 6, and library staff will respond to you. You can chat using Instant Librarian. So that's in an in-browser chat. So if you go to our website and you go to the Contact Us page, the little box will appear and you can just type in your questions right there, Monday through Friday, 12 to 6. And if you want to contact the library by email, there's a web form at lacountylibrary.org/contact us, and you can just type that in and library staff will receive your message and pass it on to the appropriate person. Now, if you want to go beyond this class, and I recommend you do, if you're interested in anything that I've said in the last, 45 minutes, by all means, please learn more. And we have resources for you to do that. For instance, LinkedIn Learning. Now, if you don't use your library card for LinkedIn Learning, It's like $300 a year. With your library card, absolutely free. You just go to our website, lacountylibrary.org. There's a learning link at the top of the page. You click that, you get right into LinkedIn Learning. You can put in your library card number, and you have full access to LinkedIn Learning, including classes like Google Slides Essential Training, Google Sheets Essential Training, Google Docs Essential Training, and multiple different levels of training for both Google Docs and Microsoft Word. I myself have greatly benefited from Excel training. In fact, I remember it was a few years ago when the library was a little bit quiet towards the end of the year, and I spent a good deal of time completing Microsoft Excel training, and it just changed the way that I used Microsoft Excel. All of a sudden, new windows of opportunity were open to me. And I recently did the Google Sheets training to make sure I wasn't missing anything in my in-depth tour last week. And I recommend the essential training, although maybe not for complete beginners. I would say that if you already have seen Google Sheets and have used it once or twice, then you're good to go for Google Sheets essential training. And you can speed up the lectures, you can slow down the lectures, they have files that you can play with. LinkedIn Learning is an outstanding resource. All right, now it's time for my favorite portion of our programs, the Q&A, and why don't we get to it? So I'm going to bring up the Q&A box, and so if you have questions, put them in the Q&A box right now. I do have the chat open too, but sometimes if the chat moves really fast, I can easily miss a question, so that's why the Q&A is better, because then I have all the questions right there in front of me. Okay, how does MS OneDrive work? So Microsoft OneDrive is the cloud-based storage system for the Microsoft Office suite and many other Microsoft programs. The way that it essentially works is similar to other cloud-based services. It stores your files in servers that are remote from where you are. So when you save files, they'll automatically be stored somewhere else and on your computer. And sometimes if you want to free up space on your computer, you can actually put a drop-down menu, and in that menu it says free up space. And you click that, and it'll just store that file in that faraway server. So Microsoft will take care of that for you. And if you need that file, you can double click on it and it'll download that file. Takes much longer if you try to download videos. So for instance, when I edit these videos, the videos of these presentations, they're fairly large files, sometimes over a gigabyte. And so for these files, I will initially have them on my computer, in my Microsoft OneDrive folder. So they'll be stored in both places. And then once I'm done editing them, once I've put them on YouTube, then I will free up the space. And if I ever need it, then I could always bring it back from, that file will be there. It'll show that I have it. I can always bring back the contents of the file onto my computer and view it very easily. But Microsoft OneDrive is just a file and folder based, desktop based version of what you would get if you used Google Drive, which is all browser based, but also files and folders that are stored in the cloud. We say the cloud, but really the cloud just means it's stored in a computer somewhere else. Please help find the underline command from the Google toolbar. Okay, let me see if I can open up a browser and bring that up for you. So I'm opening up a browser on my computer, and I'm going to share that with you in just a moment. And I'm going to have to, actually, let me just log into the Google Sheets first before I, so I'm going to go to drive.google.com, and I'm doing this on my computer, and I'll open it up when it's ready. That way you don't have to go through observing all of the random stuff that comes with signing into the program. So I'm going to do an account that I use. Hopefully, I don't remember if I have two-factor authentication on it, which means that I would have to confirm my login on my phone. So we're going to see right now. So I'm logging in. I just typed in my password. Oh, good, I'm in. Okay, so now let me share my screen with you, and then we can fiddle around with Google Drive Live. And it rhymes, so it means that it's what we should be doing. Okay, let's share that with you. And I'm bringing up the Brave browser. And here it is. All right, so let's go ahead and so here we are in Google Drive. So as you can see, I had created, there's a getting started folder, there's a personal finance folder, which I used for my presentation last week, Skeeter's personal ledger, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago now. I don't, time flies. So you can see last modified May 2nd. So actually it was 2 weeks ago. So let's create a new file, Google Docs. And so what it'll do is open up a document for me. Here it is. I'm going to rename this. So all I have to do to rename is click it up here. Click this, select all, erase that, and put Oleg's fantastical document. And here it is. Let's type in hello and welcome to my doc. I'm going to make this bigger so we can all see it. So I highlight it, and right here, let's do 36. That's a little bit better. And so the question was, where's the underline feature? So I'm going to highlight this all so that it knows to underline all of it, and go up in my toolbar here, which we talked a lot about. And right in the middle, there's this U with a little my underline. I'm going to click that. And there it is. Hello and welcome to my doc is underlined. All right. Let me stop sharing that for the moment and go on to some of the other questions. So I hope that was helpful. I'm actually asking how different drives work. So I think if we're talking about the difference between OneDrive and Google Drive, Google Drive is all within your browser, whereas OneDrive is on your actual desktop computer and also within the browser. So Microsoft's cloud-based service, OneDrive, is, one could say, platform agnostic, whereas Microsoft's Google Drive is all browser-based. Oh, Google Sheets do not have underline. Can you find it? I can try. So if you say they don't, maybe they don't, but I'm gonna confirm that. So let's go back to my Brave browser. And I say Brave browser, I don't know if the browser is brave in terms of seeing wild animals and not being scared. It's just called Brave browser because that's the name of it. That's the brand name. And a little lion is the logo for it. So let's close my document up and let's open up Skeeter's personal ledger, which is a Google Sheets file. Let's see if there's an underline. It's possible that there isn't. I see a strike through. I see a strike through. I see text color. I see italic and bold. Indeed, there perhaps is not underline. I'm going to try to use a command. I'm going to try to use Control U, which is the keyboard shortcut. No, you're able to do it, but for some reason it's not here. I wonder if you can in the edit or the view or something. It may be somewhere else format. Let's see, there's different number formats, different text format, font. This is the size of the font. Yeah, so it will do it for you. Oh yeah, here it is. Yeah, and if you go to bold for the format text, and there is an underline feature here, but for some reason it's not in the toolbar. And that you may be able to change that. I've never tried it. I very rarely use underlines in Sheets, so I've never even thought about it. But indeed, yeah, you are able to do it. So it is possible to do it. All right, moving on to the next question. I'm going to bring up my Q&A box. Does Google Corporation provide privacy for my files? So in the sense that members of the public are not able to get into them, yes, it does, because it's just like your email. It's protected by your password. Now, does it provide privacy from Google employees? That's a stickier question. I would say for most people, that's not something that we would need to worry about. It's unlikely that Google employees, first of all, who work in various departments who do not have access to everything Google. Google is a giant company, of course. Like I'm not concerned that Google is going to be some Google employee will be going through my documents because there are millions and millions and millions of Google users. They'll probably find somebody else to do if they are going to be doing that, which would be very bad practice and is surely forbidden by the company. I would say that they're not going to be going through my files. So I don't think that for most people that should be a huge worry. However, if that is a worry for you, then yeah, definitely use a desktop-based uh, productivity suite. Like you can use OpenOffice, you can use Microsoft Office. All of those are potentially available for you if you're concerned with storing your documents in the cloud. If I type all caps on a line, is there a way to convert to lowercase letters? Yeah, in Google Sheets, there absolutely is. Yeah, there's a formula. I think it may just be called either lower in parentheses or lowercase. I don't remember. I don't use that often, but I think it's just called lower. And yeah, and so you can put lower. You can type an equal sign in the cell adjacent to the range that you're trying to change, an equal sign lower, and then in parentheses, the cell that you're trying to change. Press enter and it'll put that cell in lowercase. And if you want to do it for the whole range, then you can actually make that happen for yourself as well. Whether you can do that in Microsoft Word, it seems like a feature that should be there, but I've never used it, so I don't know offhand. For that sort of thing, you might actually just do type and replace. So you push Control H or find and replace, and you can actually change the different uppercase and lowercase configurations if you're looking for specific words. Here's some information. I checked the price on the Microsoft Office 365 Personal, and they say the family version allows 5 people in the household plus you, so 6 total, to use the program and have their own account. And I believe each has their own separate OneDrive storage. The family version costs $99.99 per year, so about $100 per year. A single version for one person is $69.99, so it's about $70 per year. So for your information, if you're interested in a whole bunch of people in your household or your business using Microsoft Office 365, which is the browser-based version, $100 a year. If it's just you, $70 a year. Thank you very much. That was the very helpful information. Is the Explore feature an audio feature? How do you use it? It is not, as far as I know, an audio feature. It's something that you would type in. So I can show you what it looks like really quickly. Okay, let's go back to our Brave browser. Thank you for all folks who are sticking with me. Get a little bit more insight on the software that we're using here. So if you're not a total beginner and you want to know more, now is the time. So what we've got here is, so what we were trying to find out, let me see if I can get my Q&A back up, is, scroll down here to the question, the Explore feature. All right, so let's go to Personal Ledger here. Okay, so we've got various amounts of information. I click Explore, it brings up a little box. It says, ask about this data, and gives me some potential questions. So if I want to have a histogram of credit, average credit for each category, it'll actually do that for me automatically. If I want to ask, for instance, how much did Skeeter earn by paycheck? So I'm going to do sum of, where it just disappeared. Here. Sum of paycheck. Let's see what happens. So some of these, sometimes I type it, it works, and sometimes it doesn't. Sum of paycheck. So there's 2 instances of paycheck here. So it's like, okay, it just counted how much it is in the item name. But if I want to do sum of debit for paycheck, there we go. This is how much Skeeter made in April of this year, $4,200. And then what I did was just added this part and this part. So when I typed in sum of debit for paycheck, it looked, okay, so paycheck, it found the paychecks, and I included the debit line and it added these up. And there's a variety of different questions. So it'll tell you even how it translated your question. So if you're not sure if the answer you're getting is correct, you can look at this and see how it translated. And in the future, if you're trying to format questions, you can use the way they formatted it here to learn more. All right, back to the Q&A. Can you repeat the YouTube in-depth Excel location? So it's actually an in-depth view of Google Sheets, and I can post a link to it I'll post a link to it in the chat. I can also put a link to it in the follow-up email. I'm just bringing it up on my computer, and since it just happened a few weeks ago, it should be right at our YouTube channel, which is LA County. It's youtube.com/LA County Library. And it is, yeah, I think it's the last one here. Yeah, I posted it online 9 days ago, so just over a week ago. And I presented it I think it was the first Tuesday in May. So here's a link to that, and it's an in-depth tour of Google Sheets. So if you liked this, but it wasn't enough, I talked just about Google Sheets for like an hour and 15 minutes. Is MS Dictation similar to Explore in Google? No, it's a totally different feature. So you just noticed Explore is not a dictation feature at all. How do you get colored dashboards in Excel? You can format the way your cells look. And so you can change their sizes, you can change the way the font looks in there. And so you make various conditional statements in there. So if for instance, so actually here, let me bring this back up. So I keep sharing my screen because it's useful to be able to see. So what I did here was I created a condition here. So every time Skeeter's balance went into the red, or she was below 0, I created a condition. So when this number was below 0, it turned red. And so you can see that Skeeter was in the red for most of the month, unfortunately. Skeeter needs to learn to manage her money better. Or his. I don't even know if Skeeter's a man or woman. I haven't thought about it. But so here is, yeah, so this is a condition. So you can do all sorts of things like that in order to create, here's a chart from Pivot Table. So you can create the different looks for your spreadsheets. But yeah, getting into dashboards, that's a whole nother world. That's a whole, you probably want to get beginner and intermediate before starting to mess with dashboards. Are your classes recorded and sent out so we can review again? Yes, they are. This class is being recorded right now, and it will be on our YouTube channel either later today or early next week. And you'll get an email with the video link, so don't worry about having to check back on our YouTube channel. Although if you are interested in seeing it first, because I usually post it on YouTube first and then send out the email, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel and then you'll get notifications whenever we get a new video posted. Is there ever a one-time fee for Microsoft? I noticed that the ones I keep finding are monthly. Yes, this is one of those trends that I, for one, am not pleased with. Everything is moving to a subscription model, which is, I feel like, not as great for us, but alas, that's the way that the tech industry is going. So you used to be able to buy Microsoft software and just have it on your computer and it belongs to you and it's yours. That, it seems, is no longer the case. I haven't actually purchased Microsoft Office in a while, so they may have a version that you can just buy for your computer and not have a subscription-based model. But I don't know. For that information, you'd want to go to the Microsoft Office website and see what kind of terms they have for purchase. Where can I find LinkedIn Learning again? Great question. And I'll put a link right now. Actually, better than that. I'll do you one better. I will show you how to get there. Going to share screen. We're back to our chart here. And if we go to our website, lacountylibrary.org. There we go. Once our little bubble finishes spinning, here's our website. If you go to the very top here, where it says Digital Library, you just move your mouse over it. The very first link, as you move down under Learn, is Online Learning. But if you just want to go to LinkedIn Learning, you don't even have to do that. You can go a little bit further and click LinkedIn Learning. So Digital Library, LinkedIn Learning, and here you go. You hit Get Started, and it'll ask you for your library card number and PIN, and the world is yours. Oh, a suggestion for future presentations for some of us, using an arrow as opposed to a colored circle would be more helpful and easier to follow. Thank you, noted. How do we use an editor in MS Word? So I'm not exactly sure. Can you clarify what your question is, what you mean by editor? Do you mean somebody else editing your information, or do you mean the software editing your information? Because it does have spell check and grammar check. Spell check is good. Grammar check is a varying quality, but you do have some automated editing options within Microsoft Word and indeed in Google Docs as well. But if you want to clarify a little bit more on what you mean by editor, then I can answer that question in a more clear-cut way. Can and how to use equations in Word. Can you put spreadsheets in Word documents and modify? Yes, you can. You can't do, I think, as much as you would be able to do in Excel. You don't have as many features, but I think you can do some. If you insert a table into Word, I believe you can do some calculations in there. Can you show how Excel does automatic addition? I absolutely can. Actually, Sheets and Excel do it in exactly the same way, so I'm going to show it to you on Sheets, since I already have that open. So we're back to Learning and our website, and let's go to Sheets. Okay, here we are. So here's an empty sheet. So if we have in this cell, which is B3, if we do number 4, and then in B4, we have number 5, and in B5, we have 562.1. We want to add these up. So Google Docs has a neat feature where you can just select this range, and it'll give you the sum right down here. But if you want to do it using a formula and have the sum come up in another cell, like for instance, D3, if I want the sum of these numbers to come up here, here's what I would do. I double click the cell, I press equals, and then type in sum. I'm just used to doing it in capital letters, but you actually don't have to. You can do it it's not case sensitive, so you can do it in lowercase letters as well. And then it'll help you out. So it'll tell you how it's supposed to look. So I'm just going to select this whole range. I just used my mouse, clicked on my mouse, dragged it so I could fill the range, and it gave me the range B3, which is this, to B5, so all of this. And then I'm going to put in the other parentheses. So now my formula is done, and I'm going to press enter. And there it goes. So it added up these cells for me. And if I don't like this decimal point, if I don't want a decimal point, I just want whole numbers, right up here, I'm going to decrease decimal places, and it's just going to round for me if it needs to. So this time it rounded down to 571. But if this was like 562.9, it would probably round up. There we go. So when I change this automatically changed because of this formula. It's monitoring B3 to B5. So if I change any of these, this will change. It'll always be the current sum of whatever these numbers are. So I changed this to 0.9 and it rounded up for me to 572. All right. How do I subscribe to the YouTube channel? If you go to youtube.com/LA County Library, press enter. It'll bring up our channel. Here it is. And then on the right-hand side here, there's a subscribe button. You hit that subscribe button, and you'll be notified when new videos are posted. You can also do that within each individual video. So we just had this artist talk recently. We click on that, and I'm going to stop the video from loading. And under each video, there's also, you see our account here, LA County Library. So you know you're subscribing to the right one, and you hit subscribe. And here's the number of subscribers. So the more people that hit subscribe, the more subscribers we have here. Okay, moving forward. How can you show the dictate function? Yes, I'm gonna try it. I've never used it before, or at least it's been a long time. So I'm gonna open up Microsoft Word and I'm gonna share my Word window with you, and we're both gonna go on this journey together. While this loads, the next question is how to get into Google Sheets Essential Training. So I showed you a few moments ago how to get into LinkedIn Learning. Once you're in LinkedIn Learning, you just type in Google Sheets Essential Training in the top search bar, and it'll appear. Okay, so here we are. So we've got our ribbon up here and the dictate button. What happens? Okay, so I'm gonna just press dictate and see what happens. I am now dictating what is being typed. I wonder how fast this can go. Wow, I can type really fast and it will transcribe exactly what I'm saying, period. Maybe I'll need to edit this later. See, converted period to period. So it's right here, and I'm gonna make this cat. Oh, I'm gonna pause it. Because otherwise it's pretty amazing. It keeps up with me, even if I'm talking really fast and not completely clearly. My diction is okay. So if it's possible, if you have an accent or you speak in a certain dialect, it may not be as accurate, but it's pretty good. If you slow down and speak into it, it will dictate for you. It's fantastic. I really like these kind of features. I don't use it a whole lot now, but I can see how it can be useful for somebody who doesn't type as fast or is just simply better at speaking out their thoughts. All right, so that's the dictate feature. Was I sharing that? I thought I was sharing that. Oh, was I not sharing that? Huh. My fault. I've been sharing and unsharing so much. I was a little behind. Okay. Thank you for letting me know. I was afraid that I wasn't sharing my window. I was like, wait a second. This is how you do it. So okay. So let me erase this then. So here we are in Microsoft Word. This should look somewhat familiar to you now, since I showed you the toolbars before. All right, so right up here it says dictate. I'm going to click on it. Hello, everybody! Exclamation point. I am dictating this information for you to show you how dictation works in Microsoft Word, period. And now I'm going to talk really fast because I want to see if it's going to pick up what I'm saying and is able to keep up with fast speaking. Exclamation point. Question mark. Period. Comma. Amazing! Exclamation point. So there it is. A demonstration of the dictate feature in Microsoft Word. Pretty good. Okay, so I mentioned how to get to Google Sheets Essential Training. All you have to do is go to LinkedIn Learning and search for it. Can we get a copy of this Excel spreadsheet as a template? Oh, you mean the Ledger spreadsheet? Yeah, I can share a link with you. I'll share a link in the chat. That way anybody could, if you want to copy it and play with it and everything, you can absolutely do that. I'm gonna share it with you so that you're not able to edit it. So that way you can just copy it into your own ledger. So I'm not sharing my screen right now since all I'm doing is sharing. So anyone with a link will be a viewer. And let me post that in the chat. There's a link to Skeeter's personal ledger. And you can just copy that spreadsheet to your own Google Drive and fiddle around with it. Are these presentations prepared in PowerPoint or in Google Slides? They're prepared in PowerPoint. Can we get a library card online? If so, where? Yes, you can get a digital card online. So a digital card is not as fully featured as a regular card. You can use all of our online resources with it. But if you're interested in checking out books and doing the stuff that you do at the library locations, then you would go to the library and just upgrade your digital card. And where you do that is right at the front of our website. If you go to our website, which is here, and you go to get a library card and digital library card. You fill this out and you verify everything and you're good to go. So that's how that's done. Okay, moving forward. Is it necessary to purchase the MS Office suite in order to use MS Outlook for email? No, it is not. I believe you can use Microsoft Outlook for free. You just make an account. Oh, for the feature, previously we're talking about how to be an editor in MS Word. I don't if you're trying to use Microsoft Word as an integrated development environment, an IDE, if you're trying to do computer programming, I wouldn't recommend using Microsoft Word because the formatting is going to be really weird. With computer programming, you need to have a certain amount of spaces and white space and everything, and doing that in Microsoft Word is really frustrating. So I don't recommend that. I recommend a free piece of software called Visual Studio Code, which is also from Microsoft. It's very, very fully featured. You can just download it from their website, Visual Studio Code, and use that as your integrated development environment. How could we add Persian fonts to Microsoft Word? You can add those to with the language feature in your computer. So there's, if you go to your computer settings, it depends on what computer you have, but if you go to Microsoft, there should be a feature for languages in the settings. You can add Persian, and then Persian will be available as a language that you can change to. Many popular fonts will already have it as a possible option, but if they don't, there may be some Persian specific fonts that you can download from the web. I'm not that familiar with Persian typography, so actually I don't have much to say about that other than that, but I should be possible. The real question is, do you have a Persian keyboard? So question more about the dictation. What if we do not see it at the top area? Is there a settings button where it's located? It depends on your version of Microsoft Word or Microsoft Office. It is in the main part of the ribbon. So the very first ribbon that comes up. Let me see what that's called. So it's called just a voice. Like this subsection is called voice. So it's in the home part of the ribbon. So if your version of Microsoft Office or Microsoft Word has it, then it would be in the home part of the ribbon under voice. Does Google charge us for Google Docs? How could we obtain it? No, Google Docs is totally free. All you have to do is sign up for a Google account. You can go to drive.google.com or you can go to gmail.com, and there's links in both of those pages for creating a Google account. Do you create your own design for these presentations? I create, some of these were created by my staff, some of these were created by me. The backgrounds and stuff were created by a designer within our marketing team. So I didn't create this background. I didn't create the background design of my presentation. Indeed, I just created the images and the text. So the content of the presentation. Somebody post, I can't remember my password, help. So I would recommend calling your local library. They'll probably ask you like your address or driver's license number, and they'll be able to help you with your PIN. All right. Got to the end of the Q&A. So if you have a last minute question, now is the time to quickly type it into the chat, because I'm going to start to conclude the presentation for today. I thank you all for being here and asking me questions and being really active participants in this program. This is why the Q&A is the best part, because I get to know what you're actually interested in. Oh, I see. Somebody mentioned they tried registering for a digital library and it says geographic location not valid. I live in San Diego. So if you live in San Diego, then you can't get a digital library card. But if you're up here at some point, you can go to any of our locations. The southernmost location might be Carson, although that one's closed right now. So you just go to one of our southernmost locations, or if you're up here in the LA area, go into the library. So if you all you have to be is a California resident to get a regular library card, and that gives you access to everything. But for a digital card, you have to be within LA County. All right, what I want to do before I sign off is to share our survey link with you. So I send you a post-event survey after every program, and I humbly ask that you fill that out. It's very short, but it's a lot of information for us. And the most important box in that survey is what you'd like us to cover in the future, because that's what we use to determine subjects. We can do presentations about a lot of things, but what's the point of us doing a presentation about something that we're interested in if you're not interested in it? So here's the post-event survey. Click on that, or it should pop up actually when you exit this presentation or when I close the presentation. But if you want to do it now, click on that, fill out our survey. Just take a few minutes to do that, and I greatly appreciate it. And once again, I greatly appreciate you being here. I love that we had this long Q&A. As I mentioned, Artesia branch is the most southern. Oh, yeah, if that's the one, then go to the Artesia library and get your full featured card there. All right, good afternoon, and I'll see you next time.